It's Rand on Real Estate with Greg Rand.
Welcome to the Big Real Estate Revival. I'm Greg Rand, your host on 77 WABC and WABCRadio.com. I'm joined by my co-host, Laura Smith. How are you?
Wonderful. Happy New Year to you, Greg Rand.
Happy New Year to you. We're going to break away now and then to give you guys updates on the shooting of Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords out in Arizona. A terrible situation out there, so we'll keep you up to date, every couple of minutes on what's happening out there. But throughout the show, what we're going to focus on today, as usual, it's a real estate show. We're going to talk about making money in real estate. I've got some great interviews lined up with some people who are senior members of the real estate business, different parts of the country. So we've got an interview with the CEO of Realogy Franchise Group, a guy named Alex Perillo. Alex, the CEO of Realogy. Realogy is the 800-pound gorilla in the housing business. They own Caldwell Banker, Extension 21, Better Homes and Gardens. They own Sotheby's. They own ERA Real Estate. So they basically own the real estate industry, 25% of it. And he has got a really, really interesting concept that he is going to share with us, something he and I have been working on for about a year together now. Plus, we have an interview with probably the number one real estate entrepreneur in the state of Florida. And we all know how important Florida is to New Yorkers. Right? We've all got family down there. We all go on vacations down there. And so the real estate market in Florida is a key investment market. And we've got a really cool interview with a great guy from down that way. Share some things with you. I'm going to tell you all about the 5 principles of real estate wealth. Laura's always telling me, Greg, talk about real estate on the real estate show. Stop talking about politics all the time. So we're going to focus on the 5 principles of real estate wealth. But first, I want to congratulate everybody because we've outlasted the Great Recession. I want to welcome you to the beginning of the end of the Great Recession. We are finally here.
Bravo.
Yeah, a round of applause on that. Now, why would a guy come on the radio and say that? For the last couple of months, I've been making a point that I have a sixth sense on consumer confidence, on the way people are feeling, on the way entrepreneurs, which I am one of, on the way that we're feeling, and how over the last couple of years we've been feeling kind of bad. You know, we're sitting here during a once-in-a-generation recession, and it's constantly compared to the Great Depression, which is awfully depressing on its own. But what changed? And there has been a change. There's been a change that I felt. There's been a change that a lot of people that I speak to in the business community have felt. And it's connected with the election, but it's not what you think. It's not about Republicans winning the election. That's not it. It's about the idea that for the last couple of years, we have been in a place where, how do I say it? As a business person, as a capitalist, as an entrepreneur, I have felt, and the rest of us, many of us have felt, like we were resented by the people that run the country. That the solutions don't come from us. In fact, the problems come from us. And you could see it in things like the way that they regulated Wall Street. Now, do not think that I'm going to sit here and defend Wall Street's actions over the last several years. I mean, at the end of the day, what they did risked the entire ball of wax. They bet the farm on their derivative markets and on their over-leveraging of the housing market. They didn't really know what they were doing. And when that whole thing crashed, they ran to the microphone and demanded that they're too big to fail. And so we all had to bail them out. And so trillions of dollars or whatever were spent to bail those guys out. But when government, who played a huge role in all that, decided they wanted to hold hearings and they wanted to create regulations, they kind of left one thing out of the mix, and that was their role in the economic crisis, the role of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and how Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were kind of dumbed down to give loans out to without any standards, and created a gigantic, massive $1 trillion pool of bad mortgages that then, of course, Wall Street went and over-leveraged, and we all know how that all played out. But the important thing here is that the Great Depression and the Great Recession had a lot of things in common, and one of them is that the depression is in between our ears. You know, the depression is how we feel. It's not just about economics. It's not about banking. It's not about government policy. The reason why the Great Depression was as significant as it was not because of how it started. It was because of how long it lasted. And the reason why it lasted so long had everything to do with the way that people felt. It was the name is apropos because it was depression. It's the way that it just didn't feel like anything would ever get better again. We had been dragged into the mud, and people could not shake that off. And so you fast forward to today, and we've been in the last couple of years in a depression, psychologically and emotionally in this country, couldn't quite believe that anything was going to pull us out of it. And I've been looking very intensely for what could be the tipping point that could break that tempo, what could turn us around. And I'm a firm believer that what happened in November Again, not because, listen, Democrats are fine, Republicans are fine. And it isn't like this big election swing was because Republicans are so wonderful. All right. That was pretty clear, actually. And all the polling that was done, that it was kind of the lesser of two evils. What it was more about was just changing that specific aspect of it, where the people in this country who get up and go to work in the morning, and the entrepreneurs who go out and take risks and put their own butts on the line to try to create something out of nothing, those people, because I'm one of them, we felt like we couldn't win. We felt like if we succeed, we're bad guys and gals, and the government kind of had it in for us. And so that all changed a couple of months ago. And I sat here a couple of months ago and I told you all that I hired 2 people the week of the election, because not that I quite needed them at the time. They're wonderful people. I love them. I'm glad I hired them. But I could have waited until now or until later on in the spring to actually, that was the plan, to bring them on in the spring. But I hired them as almost a move of protest to say, now you're going to see who actually solves economic problems. It is not the government who solves them, okay? Government causes them sometimes. They can try to solve them. Private sector can cause them sometimes, as we've seen. But the private sector, the people who have the guts to go out and do something unheard of, invest their own capital, invest their own time and sweat equity, and try to create something out of nothing, those people were on the sidelines, scared to death, because we felt like we were resented by the government. That changed. I told you here that you're going to look back in history and you're going to see the unemployment chart, okay? That line chart that shows unemployment going up and up and up over the last several years, and it was going to peak. And I believe that where it was going to peak was the election of 2010. And so I was really excited to hear the unemployment report for December to come out, because unemployment has come down to 9.4% from, I think, 9.8 or 9.9. That might very well be the peak. And I'm here to tell you that American businesses are waking up. They're on the move again. They're hiring people. They're taking risks. And they're doing this because not only have they been wanting to, not only is it in their nature to do so, but I think that they want to send a message to the whole country that says, put your trust in us and we'll pull this country out of this recession together. Okay, we'll put our money at risk. We'll put our butts on the line. We'll create things that need people to implement them, so we'll hire people, but you can rely on the private sector players in this country, because ultimately that's where the invention comes from, that's where the innovation comes from, and I think that they've woken up, and I'm hoping that that is not some kind of a strange little blip on the chart. I'm hoping that the December numbers are the beginning of a trend, that what I'm feeling and what other people are feeling out there is that we've turned the corner, and 2011 is going to be a great year as a result.
Well, that's certainly hopeful. Thanks a lot, Greg. Who's coming up in the next segment? I know it's somebody very exciting.
In the next segment, we've got Alex Perillo, who's the CEO of Realogy Corp. And Alex, this is also tied in with this idea of a change in the tone in Washington, because Alex, being a senior guy in the real estate business, he and I have been working on a concept for a while now that we both independently came up with the idea, and then we had dinner one day about a year ago and realized we were both thinking the same thing about a solution to the foreclosure crisis. Now, we've all been looking for a solution to the foreclosure crisis. There are millions of people out there that are having a lot of trouble paying their mortgages. They're potentially losing their houses, and nobody wants to see that happen. Now, on the one hand, we can't just bail them out. We can't give them a free house. It isn't the way it works. Right? There's no free lunch. There's certainly no free house. So is there a solution? I'm going to save this for Alex to when he comes on the air, but that's going to be a very interesting thing. You'll hear what private sector solutions really mean, and you'll get a chance to hear something that maybe you'll begin to hear talked about in Washington as a way to help people keep their homes without creating a moral hazard that makes the rest of us who are paying our mortgages feel like suckers. And then after that, we've got an interview with somebody down from Florida, which I'll leave to the next segment. So I'm going to throw it over to Laura. We have an update about Congresswoman Giffords.
Well, what we know right now is she is in the hospital, and they are doing surgery on her. What we know is that the gunman in Arizona, he has been caught. He has shot several people, not exactly sure how many, but there have been more than one death, probably up to several at this point, including a small child who was shot. I don't know if he was one who actually died. So it's really pretty grave situation out there, but we are going to keep you updated. At the bottom of the hour, we're going to go to ABC News for their latest status on Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords, who was shot today.
Wow. So we're going off to commercial. All right, this is Greg Rand on Real Estate on 77 WABC and WABCRadio.com. Back in a moment.